Hi, thanks for joining us on Calm Hearts, Calm Minds, an NOCS Heart podcast that allows us to make the mental health victories of everyday Ghanaians accessible, relevant, and relatable. We hope that you enjoy listening to us and learning lots, and we hope you do come back again to learn some more. Now, today's episode. Hi, Dr. Richard Day. How are you doing?
Good, and you?
I'm doing very well. It's great to have you on Calm Hearts, Calm Minds.
Yeah.
Yes, it's amazing. I think I'm at loss for words, so I won't try and explain why it's amazing.
Oh,
Please.
I think I have an idea. Yes.
Yes, so I can't find the right words to explain it, so I'll just keep quiet. So today's topic is very interesting. It's about, do men feel sad too? We'll talk about unmasking male depression in modern society. This is interesting for me because I'm asking male depression itself is a big thing, let alone in the modern society with everything that's going on, especially in today's Ghana, everything that's going on. I can't wait to get into this with you. So please tell us a bit about yourself. What are you? Who are you? What do you do? Yeah.
Okay. So my name is Richard De Asamoah. I'm a psychiatrist and a clinical psychologist, and I work at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital primarily, but I do some consultation for other clinics and hospitals and do some work with the Mental Health Authority. I teach part-time with the University of Ghana Medical School, Family Health Medical School, and then Accra Medical College. Yeah, and I also teach part-time with the pharmacy department at UCC.
Oh, oh, nice. So please tell us why the topic, do men feel sad too, where we'll be unmasking male depression in today's modern society. Why is it important to you?
So the issue with men and mental health in general, but depression in particular, is that generally there's that impression or idea that men should be tough.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the idea that mental illness is an evidence or sign of weakness.
Okay.
So those two factors make it difficult for men to even recognize or admit their vulnerabilities in terms of developing mental health problems,
Okay.
especially depression, and even seeking help if they do recognize it. Because in local terms, if you had the expression "bemensu,"
Hmm.
so
Men don't.
or men don't cry. So, and people, most of the time, people feel like, for instance, you're going to therapy, you're going to be uh, weeping and talking about your stuff. I mean, that kind of thing. So generally, men would are less likely to seek help. Actually, in fact, they're likely to seek help even for physical health conditions, but it's
Hmm.
much more a problem in mental health, especially when it comes to depression. And also because of the general notion that men should man up,
Mm-hmm.
even when they do call out for help or cry for help, it's often not heard or they are ignored and thought to be weaklings. Okay, so all these factors together tend to make it difficult for men to come out regarding mental health challenges and to get appropriate help. And so it's important that we bring it to attention because it affects men and society in general because it will affect their functionality, their ability to be productive at work. And sometimes people who are depressed or have mental challenges may express it in various ways, including being agitated or irritable. And so it can play out on other people around them, um, which may not augur well for them either.
Hmm. So it's not just helping the men and helping them be able to ask for help and helping others to help them get help. It's also because, I mean, I also think of something, if you look at the religious balance with the men being the head of the home or the firstborn son or men mamro, like men should come, there
Yeah.
are people around men who will be affected if
Hmm.
they can't get the help that they need. But
Yes.
if it's not broke, don't fix it. If it's not broken, is it really that bad? Like how
Okay.
how
So
prevalent is it? I mean, because it's like it's a girl who get the broken hearts, it's a man, it's a woman who can cry. Is it are we not I don't want to say are we not creating a problem that doesn't exist, but how big is the problem? I think that's a real question because it does
so
exist. How
the
big?
reality is it's much bigger than we think. And in fact, it's difficult to get statistics on it. When you to get statistics on something, you would need to have it being reported or being exposed. Unfortunately, because you are less likely to have men to report their depression and so on, it's difficult to even have an accurate statistics on how many men are actually experiencing depression. Okay. Now, one of the ways that we can tell that it's worse than we think is that looking at suicide statistics. Okay. So on average, women attempt suicides far more than men. It's about well, not far more anyway, it's about 2 or 3 to 1.
Okay.
But when it comes to completed suicides, as in actually dying from suicides, men die at a rate of 4:1. So for every one woman
Oh,
who dies from suicides, 4 men die from suicides. Yeah. That's statistics from WHO, and even data from Ghanaian studies have shown that, yeah, you have high rates of suicide in men compared to women. So it's actually broken. It's just that it is not broken in such a way that you could easily look at it and see it if you are not actually looking out for it. So you would likely to think that, oh, not so many men are coming up with depression. It's okay. But if you look at suicide, which is variably like 90% or so due to depression, you
mhm.
actually have more men dying from suicides than women. And so then it means that there's actually something going on that we need to pay attention to. Yeah.
That statistic is scary because you have more women who are attempting it, and some people
Yes.
have um proposed that some attempted suicides are actually their cry for help.
Mm-hmm.
But getting a point where you know that is we are not going
Yeah.
any further, and because it's driven by
Mm-hmm.
depression too as well. And
Yeah.
hear the stories. Oh, they put their money in some investment, it didn't come out.
Yeah.
And then, or they said they couldn't take care of their children anymore. And then, you hear a lot about that with men. And even
Mm-hmm.
and even someone broke their heart. I mean, you have
Yes.
for want of better definition, women may go mad, but men may jump the rope. Like it's
So
it's 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 um it's a little hard.
yeah.
I don't going
And
we have questions you're going through, but I don't want to offer this one because this is just intriguing.
yeah, and it's largely because of a number of factors. So one of them is again societal expectations of men. So you as a man, when I'm speaking as a man, you are brought up expected to succeed at whatever you do. Okay,
Mm,
so and so if you are not able to succeed, the toll is relatively heavier. Okay, and society is less forgiving when a man is not meeting expectation in that regard. Okay, and you're less supportive. So generally, mental health in men is not really much supported. All right, and most of the time, by nature of um, uh, men generally be more aggressive and be more um, forceful in terms of approaches to things.
mhm.
Men are likely to use more lethal means of suicide. Okay.
And be
So
successful in that, unfortunately.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. And so, and they'll take measures to make sure that they are not discovered, things like that. And most of the time, they'd have taken some alcohol or some other drug to give them the courage to do it and all that. So it ends up being more deadly. Yeah.
Wow, wow. So these are the stark statistics. These are the
Yeah.
stark realities. And even with what I had said earlier, where a woman gets broken heart and goes mad, or acts funny, because men are also positioned to be strong, by the time it gets really bad, even if it were a broken heart, they would have covered it up for so long
Yeah,
that
exactly. You
yeah,
bottle things up. Exactly. That's the thing.
move to I think there are a lot of questions here that we want to go through today. So we'll
Mhm.
go to this one. And guys, I mean, we'll be seeing more. Let me make this campaign.
Definitely.
See more of Dr. Sama Richard Day here.
Yeah,
So today we are talking about depression, and the reason why suicide came up is that depression is one of the leading causes of suicide, especially suicide in men.
yeah.
So, how has our understanding of men's mental health evolved, and what unique challenges do men face in today's society? I think you've talked a lot about some of the unique challenges. You're supposed to manner,
Hmm.
you're supposed to be successful.
Yeah.
Is sorry, I can't get over it. Like you have to be successful. Even in committing suicide or masking up, they are very good
Yeah.
and better than women.
Hmm.
I feel very sad. I will not lie to you. I think, yeah. So,
Yeah.
but how has our understanding evolved over time?
So I think it's evolving in terms of getting better, but I think it's not evolving fast enough to catch up with the pace of the development generally in society.
Hmm.
Okay, so yes, there's more talk about men's mental health now.
Mhm.
There's more awareness that uh, men cry too, and there's more awareness that um, men can experience mental challenges and all of these things. However, there's also a lot going on, okay, and not really the necessary attention in that regard also coming up with men. So I give you an example.
Mhm.
Now,
Hi, Richard, can you hear us? I hope my internet is good. Fine. No. Okay, so that took me by surprise. I think our internet went off briefly, but thankfully it's not live. Even if it were, we would have made it.
uh, yeah,
So I think and if the recording is local, it will probably pick my screen than just what's in the cloud. So I
okay.
talking about how there's a lot going on, but it's not very effective, especially with the way things are evolving.
Yes. Yeah. So I was saying that
And then it
with the
can.
yeah, so I was saying that with the rate of evolution of society's development,
Mm-hmm,
it's although there's some increased awareness of men's mental health,
mm-hmm,
it's not catching up quickly enough. And I'm giving the example of um the this recent craze, well, it's not recent, but it's getting worse, of get rich quick
mm-hmm,
and all that. And there's still the expectation of men to be providers and so on. And there are new ways coming up of making up the money and all that. And particularly the major one is sports betting and gambling.
mm,
Okay. And this is really primarily men. I mean, there are still women also who are also involved, but a lot of the people who are losing their monies and are getting major issues with mental health because of gambling are men. Because of course they are more likely to take the risks and so on. So one of the challenges that I have experienced that majority of the people I have had to deal with depression and other problems from gambling are men.
wow.
And so you have that coming up. Now you also have a society that I might sound a bit unfair here. Some people may dislike or disagree with me on this, but there has been so much promotion of um, girl child education
Mm-hmm,
without really recognizing that boy child education is also dwindling. And the reason it's dwindling is that now boy, boys are thinking of that they can have faster ways of making money than having to go to school.
okay.
Okay. But then what happens is that you make all the money advance, and then at the point you realize that in spite of all your money, or well, even if you're as if you're able to make it, there's some deficiencies in society because of the educational weakness or deficits.
Mm.
Okay, and that also can predispose to challenges. I mean, feeling unfulfilled and so on. So you have all those issues coming up. That's what I'm saying, that whilst yes, we're making progress, it's not quick enough to catch up with the pace of changes in society.
I think one of the things that is even startling for me is when you brought up the girl child education thing. I mean, girls were perhaps put in a position by system that was structured for that so that they didn't have
Hmm.
education. There were people like, oh, we should educate the women too. Then men were not necessarily actively put in the position, they were just neglected. Like,
Yeah.
I feel it sounds like neglect. Like, there's a girl who is struggling with maths. Let's help her because
Hmm.
someone will help her. So let her get better at maths. But guys should be good. If you're not good at maths and you're good at history,
Really?
the assumption that they will survive,
No, that's the truth. As a man, you
everything.
you are expected to survive on your own. I mean, let's face the fact. If you are a man and you had your car breaks down or you have a flat tire on the road, you are less likely to get somebody to support or help you fix that flat tire than if it was a woman with a flat tire. That's the reality. It's a general construct in society. I'm not blaming anybody or anything like that. It's a general construct in society that men are supposed to be self-sufficient. Okay, they should figure things out for themselves. But the reality of the matter is that we all need support and help at some point in time.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm. Wow. I love what you said. You're not necessarily blaming it, but we are talking about the realities of do men feel sad too? And the reality is that the general construct now doesn't help with this particular problem when
Yeah.
it comes to men seeking help. So, wow. So what are the lesser known signs of depression in men that we should be aware of? I think depression for me is a very big
Hmm.
topic, like big, and the
Yeah.
fact that there are actually peculiar signs in men that are less known. And when you say depression, people feel like I'm sad, I'm sad.
Hmm.
And the
Hmm.
other one that's now becoming more popular is like, well, I can't get out of bed. I don't feel like
Yeah.
doing anything. But there's so many other signs, like how you said, it can even show up as aggression. People
Yes.
don't say you're angry, don't say you're depressed. So when it comes to and because you are not only a psychiatrist but a clinical psychologist, and we won't go there. I don't go down that road. But we know of some of the common ones. Maybe you can see some of the ones that are.
Hmm.
What are some of the ones that are less known?
Okay.
And I'll be very interested in the ones who that sometimes speak to bravado, but actually are a sign of depression.
Yeah. So the I mean, for all depression, there's the presence of low moods or sad moods. But usually what happens is that, particularly in our settings, most people, including men, may not even readily recognize that they are actually sad or depressed. Okay. So it is more the behavioral changes and things that may be noticed. Yes, you can have things like losing interest in things they used to enjoy doing as one of them. Sometimes we try to counter this by trying to do something that is sort of risky or whatever to sort of jolt them, like do something that would make them feel like they are living again. Okay. You may
This
have things like
includes, please continue. Have things like, let me not steal your
so,
time.
oh yes. So drinking, smoking, using drugs, um, whilst you can have, or mostly you have a decreased libido in depression. And so men, for instance, would now may complain of sexual issues, which I keep saying that for a large number of people or men who go looking for all these herbal and concoctions and things to improve sexual function, a large number of them is just psychological issues. Okay, so depression can actually affect libido in men, which may now manifest as maybe erectile dysfunction, loss of interest in sexual activity, and so on. Of course, there are also those who, as I said, may get into risky behaviors like rather being overly sexual and so on. Then irritability is another symptom of depression. So they may easily get angry at the least provocation and may take it out on um, less, let me say, uh, um, threatening targets.
Okay.
So, and that's where the problem comes in. So, at home, they take it out on their children, their wife, and so on. So, those are some of the issues that come with depression in men. So, those, and of course, and the thing is that when you're not able to verbally express your emotions and your mood, it can manifest as physical symptoms. So you can experience physical symptoms like headaches, body pains, joint aches. And so sometimes people come and they talk about, I have malaria, I have whatever. You test and there's nothing. And really, sometimes just depression. And so there's this expression or term in mental health we call psychosomatic.
Mhm.
So the psyche is the mind, and the soma is the body. So the mind can give physical symptoms to the body as an expression of the depression and other symptoms that they're experiencing. So some people who come and they're having chronic headaches, they
Mhm.
actually assess and realize that, or they see that they have burning sensations in their head and their body and so on. And it's all non-specific. It can be expressions of depression, actually. Yeah.
So this is scary because some of these signs are actually not depression, but it could be a
Yes,
sign of depression.
it could be.
So
Yes.
you think of how common it is, and you go like, oh, it could be anything. But the problem is
Hmm.
it actually be depression. How
Yes.
how would we how would we how would anybody know the difference?
So that's where assessments come in. So when you go to hospital, see a doctor. All right. So supposing you go to a doctor and you have all these symptoms, there are a number of there are a number of things that usually tell. First of all, the we say that the symptoms are non-specific. The
Hmm.
diseases generally come in clusters. Okay, cluster of symptoms. So usually, if you have a particular disease, based on your symptoms and signs, the doctor can think of what you are likely to have. All right. But usually, when it comes to the physical symptoms from depression, they don't really fit clearly into any physical illness.
Hmm.
Okay, that is one thing that can give you a high alert that there is something. Then you also notice that there are certain triggers,
Hmm.
okay, or certain social factors that you realize that it's gotten worse recently after maybe you're exposed to some event that is depressing you or making you worried or some stressor, okay, some
Yeah.
social stressor that's happening. So that association, so we call it there's a temporal relationship. So there's
Hmm.
a time you can tell that there's a close relationship between the beginning of that stressor and the depressive symptoms and the physical symptoms. And then usually when you probe further, you now begin to realize that they're actually mood symptoms that have just not been expressed.
Hmm.
Okay, so actually a person, when you're actually now asking the person, they can now begin to appreciate that, oh, come to think of it, I have not been in the best of moods over the past few days.
Mhm.
Okay. Then finally, if you were to do lab tests for physical conditions, you will not find, or you're less likely to find any cause for it. So somebody who comes with what looks like malaria, non-specific malaria-like symptoms or flu-like symptoms, you do all the tests for all these things and find out there's nothing. Then when you explore their social lives, you explore their psychological factors, you begin to realize that it's actually more psychological than physical. And again, you now realize that when you start instituting interventions that target their mental health, they actually start improving and these symptoms resolve.
I like what you said about when you start targeting some of these triggers, some of these environments. I know of someone who was always at the hospital like every other 3 weeks or so, like every month there'll be a hospital visit, right? And they'll always come out clean. And
Yeah.
and I think the question was, are you like what's going on? It's like there's stress at work, there's this.
Hmm.
But then they also asked, are you sleeping? Said no. So
Yeah.
it was a situation where they couldn't tell it was a chicken or the egg. Was it that the sleep was causing
Hmm.
it? Or because of it, they couldn't sleep and it was just going round and round?
Yeah.
Only to take the advice of exercising in the evening so that they get
Hmm.
tired enough to sleep.
Hmm.
And things started looking up. Like literally all those things that were seemed to be going nowhere was
All resolved.
resolved by the fact that they could take one
Yeah.
aspect, all the things that, I mean, things were going out of work, but they could take, look, target, as you said, targets. Target
Hmm.
is improve that, and you could see the improvements happening. And
Yeah.
so that's one reason why I love Calm Hearts, Calm Minds, because we don't only talk about the challenges, we really focus on the victories. And you
Mm-hmm.
can't make sure without challenges, or there's nothing to be victorious.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm really happy that we've already started going into the solutioning of it and how we can help. One of the things I'd want to
Okay.
ask, these are very, there's an assessment, medical, maybe you need a psychiatrist or clinical psychologist like you
Mm-hmm.
to do those things. However, I mean, every day this Bema and Sue and stuff, it has its place, right? But how
Mm-hmm.
can we create a safe space for men to open up about their feelings, especially when they are struggling with depression, especially when they are struggling with depression? And I want to double click on what you said. Men are not trained to express themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But as society, we are not trained to express ourselves generally. Like you
Yeah.
come group, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
don't
Yeah.
don't complain. Don't no. You can complain about general things, but don't.
Mm-hmm. Then let people know about your business. Yeah.
I'm saying it. Talk your matter to others. Get the right people, but so then it's even harder for men who are not
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be expressive at all. I remember talking with
Yeah.
a friend of mine said, Ofosia, you're very expressive. Do you realize that I can't even turn my emotions into words to say?
Mm.
When you see I'm not talking, it's not like and I feel sad because I'm like, I've taken this for granted. So
Mm-hmm.
first of all, there's that challenge that men don't speak up. And then there's also the challenge that we have to create a safe space. Let me be mean. On that note, let's go for a break and come back very quickly.
All
So
right, that's fine.
question together. Wow, we are back from the break. And if you sort of happen to tune in the middle randomly, or somebody was listening to this and you just joined, this is Calm Hearts, Calm Minds. It's an NOCS Heart podcast. We want to make mental health victories more relatable, relevant, and accessible in our society. And I think I love that our guests, and I don't know what to, I've called him so many things in the past. Some I cannot say. So now I'm struggling with his name. Day, Richard Day is Dr.
Yes,
Richard Day
yes.
is helping us with unpacking the topic of men's depression in men. Do men feel sad too? And we are not only just talking about it, we are talking about it in today's society. Now, if I mean we are in October 2024. If anyone is in Ghana, there's a lot going on. And he's even talked about the recent rise of betting and even how and even right now the recent rise of being very extreme, I won't say very, even more open about infidelity and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So now you probably have someone who just has 1,001 side chicks and it's actually a sign of depression. But these things are clinically diagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
However, we talked about some of the symptoms and we talked about some of the changes and we talked about how some people will actually feel. So if we are lucky enough to have notice or have men around us who've opened up or have started opening up, or you feel they could do with some opening up, how can we create a safe space for them to talk about their feelings? And especially when they are struggling, not just talk about their feelings, like a kumbaya, but when they are really struggling with depression or they think they are struggling with depression, yeah, what can we do? And maybe not just at home, at work. I think that's why we're here. The accessibility is having tools to be able to help. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the first thing is always awareness. So it's good that we are creating awareness like this. And it's something that must keep going, ongoing conversations. And then the next thing is to gradually normalize it. All right. And that takes time.
What does that mean?
So normalizing means that it should be okay for men to talk about how they feel.
Okay,
Okay. And
I thought about
it
it.
takes time. Yes, yes, we should be able to talk about it. And it takes time. And it takes deliberate effort. So we have to consciously avoid stopping men from talking about how they feel and make deliberate efforts to actually encourage them. So there's this, sometimes when these things come up and talk about it, go like, oh man, you just don't talk. And
Mm,
then I always tell them that look, if you even if you take a cursory look on social media and just look at how people respond if a man puts up a post about how they feel or anything, you can tell that the general idea is that don't talk about it. So really, so you're likely not to respond to it. Okay. I've actually experimented on this a few times myself, putting up stuff about men and seeing how people respond. Okay. And so once it happens like that, already the person is not really enthused about talking. And so if they talk and they get that kind of pushback, then it definitely would not be willing to go on. And we also have to recognize that men and women are different.
Mm.
So women, maybe, like, for lack of a better word, naturally talk more than men, or have, and there's evidence to this. There's research such as shows that women use words earlier than men when they are growing up. If you look at the brain, the kind of pleasure and stimulation women get from speaking or talking, men don't get the same pleasure and stimulation.
Mm.
So it's actually evidence to it that our brains are wired differently. And so our response to talking and our ability to talk are different. And these are things that we must be aware of. And so allow men the space and the time, or more space and more time to talk,
Let me
and not
just
just
put
say,
on that. Our response to talking and our ability, not only the ability, but also the response. And then given
yes,
more space and time. Wow, please continue.
yes.
I just have
So
to have us rehash that, honestly.
yes, I can give you a typical example. I do therapy, and I always tell people that I find it relatively easier doing therapy for women than men, and I think that is because the approach to therapy are more designed for women and men than men.
Oh,
Because therapy generally is so some people for some people even refer psychotherapy as talk therapy, although I disagree with that expression. So you're
mm,
actually supposed to talk.
mhm.
And as I said, if I'm doing therapy for a woman, right? Usually by the time I get her to start talking, and it's always usually easier to get them to talk. By the time she's done talking, narrating, having someone just listen to her, that's already her beginning to feel better and feeling calm. That's what that the response or stimulation they get from talking is different. For a man, I've noticed that if for the first session I just let him talk and talk, he actually feels worse when he's leaving
Oh, dear.
because one, he doesn't see any solution. And see, men are generally wired to be solution oriented. He's not seeing any solution to having to bear his private issues and his private life to a stranger in a way that he's not used to doing, and then going away with nothing. And then he's wondering, so what was the point of all the talking? Do you get it? So for them, there must be a point. So the talking itself, so for the woman, the talking itself may be a sort of part of the solution. For the
Yeah,
man, it is
sorry,
only
you are
just
here.
a yes, but for the man, just a way. It's just a means to get into the solution. So if at the end there's no solution at the end, then it's a waste of time for him. You
Wow.
get it? But we usually do not pay attention to this dynamic, this difference. And
I
so we
feel
may end up,
I feel sad. I feel sad because you mentioned I was getting excited when you said men should be given more room and time to talk.
mhm,
And I've seen that too. I have mentored men and women, and it's
mhm,
easier to have them talk about what they need and what they want as
mhm,
well. Maybe because I always felt with me as also another woman, but sometimes men are not even allowed to talk about what they need without proposing a solution to it. Whereas
yeah,
we are allowed to vent. So the fact that even therapy is designed in a way that doesn't really meet men's needs, especially when depression
mhm,
really does well with having therapy. And therapy in
mhm,
itself has not necessarily been designed to,
yeah,
example, I don't know if, well, I'm not a clinical psychologist yet or a therapist, but I can feel my own frustration if someone came and they only said two words and we spent 30 minutes doing nothing. But right now, you just said something that could actually be progress because they need
yes,
time and space to, oh, this is sad.
mhm, yeah. So they need to give them the time, the space, and understand that they will not tell you everything on the first day. So
Mm.
you might have the patience because you have to build a certain level of trust. Also, realize that or recognize that you're not going to judge them the same kind of schema that society judges them when they talk and all that. So all those things have to come into play. So there's that need, and that's the same way when we are dealing with in society, as we are trying to help and create better space for men to talk, if you are engaging them or you are encouraging them to talk, give them that time. Okay, let them know that at least you are available and you are ready to listen and so on. And again, the so actually most of the time the safe spaces are created by men themselves.
Hmm.
So most of the time when people say, so that's why it's really not entirely the case when say men don't talk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but what happens is that they just talk to themselves.
Okay.
Okay, so you talk to your boys. All right. Now that means that if you are lucky enough to have boys who are sensible, sensible in quotes, then then you get
I
the
like how
help
you
that you
call
need.
that out. Someone. But
No, no, true. No, so I'm
wow.
I'm not the
That's
kind of person who
harsh.
I'm not the kind of person who sort of that's an all or none. I say that like guys, because we are talking about advocating for men as if all men are are
Mhm.
top-notch people. No, there are bad male friends who would rather take the advantage to tease you and make fun of you if and because also part of society.
Mm.
But when you have real so and actually over the years, I have come to realize that men create such spaces for themselves, just that it is not too open, so society doesn't seem to realize it or recognize it. So you create our own safe spaces, all right. And of course, if it's a good safe space, then that is good. If
Mm.
they end up leading you to drink and do other things, then that is bad. But on the whole, there's that thing. So I think that being more open about it, creating more opportunity and I think it should also start also quite early with young men
Mm.
and boys. Okay, I always say that we talk about the 4-in-1, for instance, that for every four girls, one may have been sexually abused. What we don't seem to recognize that for boys it's 6-in-1 or 1-in-6 or whatever. So for every six boys or six men, one has been sexually abused. But we ignore it. I always ask how many men, ask boys or men, how many of you growing up were told not to sit on a stranger's lap or not to do those kind of things that your sisters were told not to do? Nobody. So we also have to start being deliberate with the younger ones so that we build resilience in them and build that ability to be expressive about how they feel and not be ashamed of it right from that age as well.
Not be ashamed because I think there's sometimes a sense of shame if even bearing out your
Yeah,
heart. And
exactly.
like what? Aren't you a guy?
Aha.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for those of you watching this and me, have watched other episodes of me, you can see how become solemn because a lot of the things are like there in what's the word? Oh, all my expressions are going today, but like broad daylight, it's there.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I have never personally not associated them with the impact on depression.
Yeah.
And I like to tell myself that I'm widely read, and I think I am.
Mm-hmm.
So some of these things really shock me when the reality hits.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, one of the things that really gets into me is giving men time to speak
Yeah.
because I've spoken with, I tend to speak with a lot of people and people tend to open up with me as well. But it now has occurred to me that I like to ask the question, how do you feel? Like come to me, say, how do you feel about it? How do you feel about it?
Mm-hmm.
And I've realized that at a point, the women I would have spoken with that about, sometimes even before I even ask them, hi, how are you doing? Oh, this happened. And I feel like this. They're already in the zone.
Mm-hmm.
But the men, it's like, how do you feel about it? Oh, it's okay. It's all right. Are you sure? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
okay. All right. And then that's where I feel like, there should be more to this. But if I'm picking any lessons from this, is giving them the space and time. And
Mm-hmm.
that also explains why sometimes some of the men, one day they'll just come and offload everything on you because, like, where is this from?
Yeah.
I have nothing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
change because in a woman, if you vent like that, something has changed. But it's like, no, he's just felt safe enough. So the
Mm-hmm.
dynamics are different. Wow. Let's move on to the next question. I feel there are so Dave, we are going to have you back, really. Like, honestly, we are going to have you back.
Mm,
You've talked about so many things. You talked about even the growth of them growing up. You've talked
mm-hmm.
about abuse as children. You've talked about even circle of friends. I'm glad that we have another doctor coming to talk about like that thing of brotherhood and
Mm-hmm.
having it. And I love, let me just say, it's a victory that little small therapy groups exist for men already bro code and in those places.
Yeah.
But then if you end up in a circle that doesn't really
Mm-hmm.
help, you may not know, and that could even make depression worse for you. Now,
Yeah.
this is not just
Yeah.
about general men problem. We are really focusing on depression.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what strategies can men employ to manage depression symptoms and improve their mental health? And just because you've talked about bad bro buddies,
Mm-hmm.
how they could make things worse for you if you find yourself in such
Yeah.
and you feel like this thing is not really helping. I mean, we are now in a
Yeah.
society of up and leave, but not everybody can up and leave or should up and leave in every situation. What can men do? I
Okay.
talked about, so first maybe just remind us a little bit of some of the things that will make us realize we are depressed. You said men don't realize. So what does something make
Yeah.
them realize and then what can they do? I think that's the lovely thing about Calm Hearts, Calm Minds. This
Yeah. So
is
I had mentioned that. Oh, sorry. So I had mentioned that you have um for all depressive episodes, you would likely have an underlying low mood. Just that sometimes it's not really recognized. So you will more notice more of the behavioral symptoms. And so that sometimes you can have things like agitation and aggression in men, irritability, so easily getting irritable, or you can have them having issues with sexual function. You also have sleep challenges, eating problems, either eating too little or too much. Most of the time, it's too little for men. Um, Women may eat more when they are depressed, but it can either way. You have um, problems with functioning, so they are unable to work as productively as they used to work, and so on. And sometimes you can have worsening of behavioral problems, so trying to drink or smoke or engage in some other activities like that to sort of help with the depression. So self-medicating the depression with those kind of things. Those are some of the challenges.
or too
Now,
much.
when it comes to,
You just got very
I think,
active, or maybe too much church. You just suddenly got very active at church and they are non-stop there.
yes, it's possible. So sometimes it's like it's a way of masking the problem. And
Mm,
so you may overindulge in things that you routinely wouldn't indulge in as much. Okay. Then so what can you do? So usually when I deal with people, I try to see if their strengths can be used to manage the challenges. So
okay.
whilst yes, one of the reasons why men may have a lot of mental health issues that may go on is the whole aggression and go-getting kind of personalities and expectations on them. It also is an advantage in the sense that if you decide then that you are going to be more deliberate about your mental health as a man, then you may not really care as much about what society will say or do about it. Okay, and you are more likely to take charge of it. So just like society is supposed to take charge of various things, you also should decide to take charge of your mental health. So it's your mental health. Okay, it's your priority. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
decide that I'm really paying attention to my mental health. And so I'm going to take steps or measures to prioritize my mental health.
That's
So
impressive.
regularly, yeah, so regularly check in on yourself. How am I feeling? Because although you might not be able to vocally tell others, you can tell within yourself without even have to verbalize it. That I tell that I'm not my usual self. So being
Mm,
able to recognize that I'm not my usual self. Okay. And then the next step is then getting help. Okay. And the good thing is that we have more therapists, more psychiatrists, more psychologists. So get help. Okay. It's just like um, getting help with mental health problems is just like getting help with any other thing. If your car was broken down, you see a mechanic.
okay.
If you have electrical problems, you see an electrician. If you have mental health problems, you see a mental health expert. It's really as simple as that. Also, various things that you can do to help maintain your mental health would include things like good dieting, exercise, um, all those things, which men tend to think or seem not to have time for because there's so much you have to do in a day and all that. And the important thing with that is that so it means that you have to make it part of your schedule. You have to actually be deliberate about it. Okay. So if you are a very hardworking person, you should also work hard at these kind of things. Okay. So I tell people that, for instance, um, these days I'm not able to do as much as I used to, but I usually have a day or half a day where I am resting in a week. And so on that day when you call me, I tell you I'm busy. And if
Mm,
you try asking me, I'm busy what? I tell you I'm busy resting. So it's a very busy job to do. Resting is a very important. It's and you need it.
Guys, this
Okay.
one,
And as
the smile you are seeing is not just what he said, oh, it's all the history of Richard there in my head.
so it's it's important that you actually deliberately add rest and leisure to your life.
Hmm.
Okay. And it's very important for men. All right. So rest can be sleeping, just being at home, not doing much, or engaging in some sport and activity or whatever. Again, men tend to be more competitive.
Hmm.
So if you are going to engage in any leisure activities and you know you're the competitive type, you engage in one that is not requiring too much competition so that
Oh,
you don't get upset or don't put in more effort into it trying to win rather
you
than
know,
trying to enjoy it. Yes. For instance, I say that for some men, you can't use watching your favorite team as a leisure activity because if the team loses, you get depressed. Okay. So
oh, it's,
you understand?
oh, it's.
Yes, you get it. So some people are very so competitive that they have to play video games for leisure, for instance, and they lose to be upset. So look for things that match your kind of personality, all right, so that you can do them and enjoy them without having to feel the competition and so on. And that's this important, particularly for men, because you have to know your personality, know the kind of person you are, and know that although others may say that, oh, this activity is fun and all that, you know that if you do it, it will not be fun for you.
Yeah.
So do that. Yeah. So knowing yourself is very important. And as I keep saying, get help. Okay. Sometimes it's difficult doing all this introspection on your own. So sometimes you sit with a therapist can actually guide you to actually identify some of these things and get help. And I think that largely over the past few years of practice, I think that men are coming out more than they used to. And so
That's
there's quite some hope. And I hope that we still make progress. And I'm hoping and praying that whilst we are doing this, there'll be more efforts at looking at streamlining therapies for men. I particularly tend to use a problem-solving approach. Okay, so right from the start, beginning, we start doing problem solving because as you go on, you're narrating your problems, you are looking at the solutions alongside. And I find that men find it more beneficial to do that. Yeah,
maybe one day we'll unpack that one as well. I don't know
yeah,
how to do it in such a way that we don't start giving people weird ideas when they are not trained to be therapists, but
yeah,
give people tools in helping them help others. And that's also just an
hmm
interesting topic, like problem solving.
yeah,
I'm also very happy about the way you say, like, guys, they get the electricity paid, they get the car wash, some of the things that a lot of people in society will assume, they make sure there's chop money, and then they also make sure that they're,
hmm
and I love that it's a victory because you already see it
hmm
happen. Oh, dog in the cry. A lot of men are
yeah,
actually say it, mean it, and
hmm
dog whoever they need to dog. Whereas
yes,
for women, it's like, and like there has to be a lot more work around the dogging before the dogging happens.
yeah,
I like that, like men are that competitive in that space and also
yeah,
successful. I think the conditioning of society now plays a good thing here, where you're conditioned,
okay,
so they are more serious about mental health, their own mental health, and really good to hear.
hmm
This is Calm Hearts, Calm Minds, and please, 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 I'll probably say this more in some of our sessions. If you need help, there's always a DM, there's always a number. Try and reach out. And definitely, I know I've known him for a while, and I know a lot of therapists should be able to connect you if you need one, or you need help. We can start from somewhere. So I am well aware that time is going, and I'm enjoying this too much. So I will go quick question. What about friends and family? How and colleagues at work, especially colleagues at work. No, let's not even make especially friends, family, colleagues at work. I think we are all men are surrounded us by people
hmm
who are conditioned not to help them or not to
yeah,
come on to soft or whatever mushy.
yeah,
How
hmm
can you support a man who may be dealing with depression, and what resources should they may be aware of? So you talk
okay,
about therapy, but what can those of us who've noticed, who suspect, what resources do we have? What can we do?
okay. I think the most important thing I think is to recognize that they are men, not supermen. And so we should manage our expectations and the pressure we put on them, because usually that is the first thing. Okay. And let's be deliberate about finding out how they are doing beyond what we can get from them or what they are
They
doing
don't
for us
tell
and
us.
things.
What if they don't
No,
tell
but
us what they're doing? Every day I
see,
don't talk.
if you ask someone how they are doing
I'm being
over
mischievous.
and over, oh yes, I know. One day they will talk.
Okay.
Okay. um it's about having the patience and the time, recognizing that we are different people, right? As I said, there are some people that come to therapy with me, and in the first few minutes they're already spilling everything, and I'm ready to support and all that. There are some too who come and then you know that you are going to be doing this for the next few sessions. You're going to just have bits and pieces every now and then, and it's okay. We are all different personalities, so
Mm.
recognize that we are different people and we'll have different approaches to how we do things. Okay. And also tone down on the blaming. Okay. Um, we tend to blame them for their situations more than anything. Ah, you are like that because you don't talk. You are like that because you want to do everything. But the ultimate matter is that you are the one who brings him everything to do. So those are all those things that we have to pay attention to. Okay, so it's important that we bear these things in mind. Recognize that um, they also have the needs. All right, and one of the things that I mean, even growing up as children, it took us some time to actually recognize that our parents, particularly our fathers, also have needs. Because you're always going and daddy, I want this, daddy, I want that. You would never really even ask daddy, how are you doing? Daddy, are you okay? How was work? Get it? Well, we are doing. Some people are doing it, but it's something that we should be more deliberate about. And these are things that we can teach. As I always keep talking about young people, because to effect the change, it must something that is started from a young age. Usually, beyond a certain age, it's a little more difficult to learn new habits. All
Yeah.
right. But if it's something that they've been learning or been doing from childhood, it's easier to pick it or continue when they are older. So I think that those things. So I think the whole thing is being deliberate about it. And then I think that also one of the reasons why there are challenges with men's mental health is that there's actually challenges with mental health in general, and just
Yeah.
that men tend to be on the worst side of it. So
On
at the workplace,
that side of it.
there should be clear policies on mental health care, all right, and especially policies that protect anonymity and privacy. All right. So one of the things that will keep a man from talking is he goes to see a psychologist, and by the next day, everybody at workplace is looking at him some strange way because like, hey,
You went to
you
see
went to see a psychologist. Are you okay? That kind of thing. And so those are and one of the things that's I find challenging is when you are being asked if you are okay in a pitiful way. Okay.
Mhm. Oh,
So when everybody knows their business and is asking them, are you okay? It's like, who came to tell you that I'm not okay? Okay. So you have to ensure that there's enough privacy and anonymity regarding, and it's not just for men, for people in general.
yeah.
Okay, because there's still some stigma with mental health. So to get to a point where people can openly talk about it, at least when they're initially getting help, let's protect their, and there should be clear guidelines and policies on mental health support at the workplace. And at home, there should be deliberate efforts to approach people, including men, with care and love. Okay. For to a large extent, men maybe the way they are because they don't really get much love and care.
Mm.
Okay. So if you start showing them some love and care, and then they'll
Better
be more
loving
open.
care for our men too. TLC.
Yes, yes. So I give an example. At church,
Mhm.
when it's Mother's Day, then you maybe have a big cake, you share chocolates and stuff for the mothers and everybody in the church. Then when it's Father's Day, ask the men that what project are they doing for the church? Okay. So they come ask them, what are you doing for Father's Day? And I'm like,
Wow, I'm sad.
you get it. So let's be deliberate about also caring about and giving some care and support for
Oh,
men.
that is
Yeah.
sad. It's sad. No, it's sad.
Yeah.
Sad. It
Yeah.
speaks to the flaw in society,
Yeah.
And then also
Yeah.
speaks to also the achievements of men. So yes, they may not want a cake, but maybe something that speaks to honoring their success and achievements, not just asking them
Exactly.
more money when there's
What's the next one that they are doing?
wow. This has been very insightful. I've been very restrained because I'm literally afraid I'll ask so many questions. I have a lot of questions now. Yeah. And we'll probably put them in huge topics on their own.
Yeah.
One thing I've heard is not only be a friend to a man or as a woman, but also recognize that they would come around at their own time and you should be there. So every day you're not talking doesn't mean that every day you don't ask, how are you? And
Yeah.
one thing I have learned um, is to be able to ask how are you or how was the meeting?
Mm-hmm.
How was your day? And
Yeah.
it's the same answer. I don't like talking about the meeting. I don't like talking about my day. But you are
Mm-hmm.
right, with that consistency, one day the day will be talked about,
What
the
they
meeting
tell you? Yeah.
about
Mm-hmm.
the it will happen. So I think that's a nice thing about consistency. People know you're around. So
Yeah.
eventually they will also come around. But then trust then is actually we may probably talk about trust as if it's a girl thing. I don't trust you. But think about it. If I know I can speak with you and it doesn't go out, I'm most likely going to speak with you some more. If I
Yeah.
know that every day you are interested in my welfare without forcing me to express my interest the way I would or someone else would or what I'm expecting, then it's a little easier. So there's been a lot of nuggets in this. I hope
Mm-hmm.
some of us can go back and listen again and with like pen and book and take some notes. We are almost out of time. And we have come to our last question. Ask everybody on almost every podcast that I do, every interview that I do.
Mm-hmm.
If there you have said a lot, but
Mm-hmm.
taking me to the side of sadness and sorrow and joy and relief in ways I never expected with this call. Now I'll probably be a bit more prepared when I'm coming for an interview with you, Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
But what's that one thing? If there's one thing you wanted, it doesn't. If we forgot everything, what will be that one thing you want us to remember?
I think the one thing that we should remember, I think that would jot our minds to actually pay attention to men is the fact that for every one woman who dies by suicide, four men die by suicide. And so remember that men's mental health is also very important. And we need to make deliberate efforts to unmask the issues that they are and get them to actually talk. And I'm hoping that this will stick in our minds and would, on our own, research and find out ways where we can be more caring and more open to discussing issues regarding men and keep the conversation running. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. This has been Come Hearts, Come Minds. It's a podcast that aims to make the mental health victories, like how men want to be successful and they can be really good at managing their mental health, even on their own and with help. More
Yeah.
relatable. Goodness, there are a lot of guys who came to me. I'm not saying they had mental health problems or they had depression, but there are a lot of, I know a guy who literally beats himself up. He punishes himself when he loses with FIFA.
Yeah.
Won't mention your name, but hi, you're watching. So
Yeah.
make it more relatable. I can relate to this
Mm-hmm.
more relevant because the statistics are hard. I mean, for every woman who dies by suicide, four men.
Mm-hmm.
For every 1 in 4 women who've been abused, 1 in 6. That
Mm-hmm.
is tackling, and you don't even hear
Mm-hmm.
the stories. So yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're
So
welcome.
looking forward to seeing you again. I hope you learned something new. I hope you have some tools to work with, and I hope you share this with others. And I hope we can continue making the mental health victories in our society known. Thank you so much, Richard. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
See you very soon.
Right. Yeah, I see you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Calm Hearts, Calm Minds, and NSSR podcast. We hope you enjoyed it and we hope you learned something new. We look forward to you joining the next episode. We can't wait to see you soon. Bye.